I knew I forgot something. Okay, sorry for me just talking at you without noise for a minute there. I am still getting used to using the live stream webcam software, and hopefully I'll get better at that as I get used to doing this. So that should be all now synced up. Yeah, so this is Chloe, and I am getting used to this whole live stream biz. I wanted to do it because we've had some download issues with our data plan here. So I find that the live stream just does it really quick and I don't have to worry about recording and then downloading and all that stuff. I had a topic for tonight that I wanted to talk about. A few different ones, but I'm going to try to stay focused. So one thing is I am going to be going on a web hotline to do oracle and tarot readings and such. And I have been listening to some really great experienced readers out there who have been involved in some of the hotlines. And one of the things I talked about was creating a persona and figuring out what your unique, what your weird is, what your unique thing is, and standing out. And I actually found that kind of hard because I don't know. It's not that I'm not a little odd or weird or anything like that, like they kind of talked about. It's just my oddness. I'm not sure how that conveys in the reading. I haven't for a little bit, but I do tend to like to dye my hair in like purple or reddish purple, like raspberry tones, things like that. I really like those colors. And I was thinking about that, how I like to do things visually, but I'm also very sensitive to like, I don't know, stuff in general. Like, you know, I can only wear certain fabrics, things like that. So my quirkiness partially comes from my sensory issues. And one of the other things I was thinking about was, you know, I really love animals. I'm really into earth, natural, earth spiritual kind of spirituality. And I mean, I know there's a lot of us out there, so I don't know how unique that is. I mean, I guess my biggest thing is that I guess my point in this video is that I'm trying to work through what my deal is. And I'm usually fine doing my readings. I'm very confident in the moment. And when I've done reads before, usually they've been for fundraisers or themed events, even mini psychic fairs or events at stores. Sometimes I was just reading for tips. Sometimes it was private readings. Other times, again, I did a lot of fundraisers. So being unsure about my ability to read, no, that's not an issue. It's more along the lines of, I guess, learning how to brand myself and market myself in that sense, because I know that I read uniquely with, say, certain oracles that I have, like my Druid animal oracle and my I read that oracle totally differently than anybody I've met. And because I read it energetically, I know a lot of people that say that, but when I usually mean currents when I say that. A lot of other people say energetically. And that means that I get sometimes predictive readings from that oracle when that oracle was actually made to be more like exploring situations and helping you work through it. It wasn't really meant to be a predictive deck, but for some reason I'm able to use animal decks in that kind of way. Another thing is I've been told in the past that I come across as very, I don't know, like sometimes people are shocked when I cuss, you know, and I'm not a white lighter type. Matter of fact, I mean, I have a few decks, like a few Doreen Virtue decks that I kind of like, but I only have like her elemental decks, what I call them. I don't have any of her tarot because by the time she started doing that, I already kind of explained that when I did some the Doreen Virtue vlog that I did a while back. Where she was going was not where I am or was heading at the time. And so I kind of when people talk about being a white lighter and an intuitive worker and all this kind of stuff, I am definitely an intuitive worker. And I think that's the other hard part I have is that I tend to be very attracted to, I guess, kind of. Oh, hi Bella. It's nice to know you're out there again. Hey. So yeah, so I was doing this video to try to explain what I was exploring right now and trying to make some decisions on. And I'd welcome a few cents from anybody, you or anybody who might catch me on here while I'm doing this vlog. So I was trying to figure out how to basically find my niche in my personality for doing readings. Because I've decided to get connected to possibly a hotline or offer a reading somewhere, be it off Facebook or somewhere else. And I'm finding it really difficult to decide. I was about to do that, hun. One moment, please. I have to pause. Just give me a moment, folks. I was just about to do that. Okay, here I am. Sorry about that. Yeah, I thought get me back into doing stuff, and I usually need to. Sometimes I don't sleep very well at night, and I've always been more of a night worker, so I thought I'd try to arrange that and figure it all out, you know. Oh, good. Looks like that all connects, and I think I have my sound on because evidently you can hear me. There you go. I get that. Yeah. So the topic I was hoping to do here was figuring out your niche, trying to figure out what kind of reader you are, and maybe share some of the things and run some ideas. And people can talk about it in the chat or they can comment later, you know. One of the things I kept thinking about is I was looking through my decks trying to like see what things I'm attracted to when it comes to the tools I use for readings. This is my Shadow Oracles of Shadow and Light. And it's one of my favorite decks aside from my Oracle of Shapeshifters. I really love my Lucy Cavendish decks. I have other kinds like my Druid Animal Oracles, and I've got this cool witchy oracle that's a little bit on, I like to call it kind of darkling. It's kind of, with the Lucy Cavendish decks, they're kind of shadowy, but not too dark. And then some of my other decks are just really pure nature and Celtic stuff. So it's kind of a, I don't know. It's like I've got a little bit of a shadow thing going on, and I'm not into the angel white lighter stuff at all. That stuff just totally turns me off. But I don't, disrespect it for anybody else's path or what they want to use or anything like that. Matter of fact, the only angels I really like are the ones that are in Lucy Cavendish's deck because they're a little bit, like this one, for example. This is the Storm Angel, and this is the Jasmine Beckett Griffith artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's so non-traditional. And when you read about them, and when I work with the energies, it really speaks to me. I don't feel any hesitancy, even though I see the term angel or anything like that. With her angels and her beings and creatures that she has in here. Here's another one. I really, really think this one's beautiful. And I don't feel the internal, like, oh my gosh, I can't read with this card. So here's the other one. It's the Snow Angel. I really, really love her depictions and how it feels. Oh, I totally get that. Intuitive and nutritional. Yeah. I have lots of tarot, but I always had this thing where I was fighting this. I know where the tarot came from in the sense of that its roots are in the Italian Renaissance. And during that time period, if you know the traditional tarot, which you evidently do, it comes from like a Catholic, a very dualistic society, and a lot of stuff built with the spirituality of the time that was prominent in the culture at the time. And so when I read tarot, to me there's an underlining Christian duality thing going on about good or bad, right? And so I do tend to favor, if I'm working with tarot, a more Rider Waite or a more like tarot with like an oracle feel to it. Matter of fact, one I have here that has a little bit of that going on. Hold on. If I can reach it. It's like on the other side here. Okay, it's like My Dreams of Gaia. This one definitely has its own system. I'm just trying to get the actual deck. It's like off to the side. The Dreams of Gaia, if you know this one, it's almost its own system. It's technically a tarot, but she's changed the major arcana so much. What she's kept of the tarot is having the four suits in the in the minor arcana. But if you read with this deck, it's so much similar to the feel. It's not exact, but it's similar to the feel of her oracle. I think Messenger's Oracle. I gotta look at that deck to see what it's called. Oh, Messenger's Oracle. Yeah. So this one again, I really love dark backgrounds and colors and stuff. I don't know. I have other ones that are totally different in feel. I love the bold, bright colors, but I really like that there's a touch of dark. The dark border I really like a lot better than, say, white borders and stuff like that. It depends on the design. You know, I'm not much of I really like doing edging, and I will trim borders if they bother me or I don't like the look of it. Unfortunately, I really butchered my Druid. Woolworthington artwork, but it was the Wildwood that he did. I totally butchered that poor deck. I got to get a replacement deck. So yeah, so this has some really awesome artwork, and this is a totally different artist. This is Raven Phelan. I became aware of her because of a Lucy Cavendish Oracle deck called the Oracle of the Dragon Fae. She did a good portion of the dragons in that one, and this is like one of my favorite crone cards in any of my decks. This is one of my favorites. So beautiful. Really like it. And so like I'm not a goth person at all. I don't wear makeup. Like I can't because of my sensory issues. I do tend to favor wearing some dark colors. I like charcoal a little bit better for wear. And I have to be particular about what kind of clothing I wear because of my sensory issues. And like even right now, I'm having a bit of a stress anxiety week. And so I tend to be wanting to wear like a hood or a hat even indoors. It's kind of ridiculous. But I really like this card. I love the kind of darker background, even though it has some really bright, awesome colors and details. I really like that nice blend of shadow and light in the Dreams of Gaia deck here. And oh, this is a really cool. My Circle of Life Tarot has not the same, but kind of a similar theme in the death card. I think I showed it like last January, not this one, but the one before. It has like skulls and a snake, and a dark background, and I think even moons on that one. But this one has like the egg and this. It's like a really good one for showing rebirth, and even though it's like one ending and the starting of a cycle, that kind of stuff. So this is really cool. Let me skim down a little here so I can see if you've been talking to me and I just missed it. Oh, okay. Yeah. I just bought the Carol Heiser. Oh, cool, cool. Yes, we got tons of snow here in the last few days. Actually, today it wasn't new snow, but yesterday lots, and supposedly another storm's coming in tomorrow. So yeah, we're going to be going to a group play date tomorrow at around 12, and hopefully get home before the next storm system comes in for the weekend. So yeah, oh, I forgot how much I liked this like water cards, and I believe that's water. That might be it. I'm thinking that's water. Could be wrong. I'm still getting used. I've had this deck for a year, and I'm still getting used to working with it. I just find it's such an inward focusing deck. I'm still finding my niche for reading with it. I usually do best if I have someone to read for, and then I can like feel which deck will work with that person's currents. So especially with my tarot, because I can pull almost any oracle and read for anybody, but it seems like tarot I really need to have someone to read for in order to really dip into the tarot deck. I don't know. I enjoy them. I love the artwork. And I am actually loving this time of year. I love the dark time of year. I am early March baby. I was actually born a few weeks late, so I should have been a February baby. Um, just water. So yeah, I feel very conflicted right now because I've been on a hotline before that did webcam stuff, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to like. I don't know. I feel conflicted because I think um, some people have had similar experiences, but I don't know, and I've only seen a couple people actually talk about this, and it was so. Oh yeah, you like fall and winter too. I love fall and winter. It's the only time I feel halfway comfortable. I mean, I don't mind feeling cold. It's nice to be warm. I hate being overly hot, and the only time I can feel somewhat comfortable is when it's cooler. So that's how it is. So yeah, so between the fact that I am basically a shadow girl, again, I'm not a goth, I know that, but I do tend to like a lot of the similar things that goths like, especially in my taste of movies and I don't know about music. I've listened to some that I understand is goth music, and I like most of it, but I was trained kind of traditionally in choir and chorus and things like that. And I mean, now being pagan, when I was in high school, half the time they teach you some Christmas music and they teach you some old classical music where you're doing more like show tunes or musicals and things like that. And I realized, I guess because I came from like a limited income family, I wasn't really exposed to the culture of going to big events and concerts, partially because literally I couldn't handle it. I mean, sensory wise, I would have been in a nightmare zone, and I can only handle some of that stuff if I get drunk now. So, or take a special supplement. That's the honest truth. I because alcohol helps dampen the senses. It makes my sensory stuff a little bit more able to handle the atmosphere. If I try to go to a bar and not drink, I will end up having to take pain medication, or I have to leave, or I might have a freak out. So, yeah. So craziness. There you go. And I thinking about all these things, I was just like, okay, so what am I going to do? How should I theme myself? Because Usually when it comes to my personal readings that I do with people, I'm just normally they're catching me for a few minutes in between things, or I set aside some set time later or earlier in the day, because my boys are old enough now that I can be like, okay, you're going to bed, you're doing your thing, I'm now going to be doing stuff. And I've done this once before. Like I said, I did work for a short time on a line, but there were some major pervs, and I was not expecting that. I remember one of the first times I tried to go on just a phone line, and even there, I had to deal with some really shady people, and it really was like a mental um, form of abuse in a way, because they push the stuff on you and you're just trying to do your job, and I'm not on a sex line, and I'm wasn't on a webcam sex line either, and they're just all kinds of bad behavior that I was just not ready to deal with. So I'm trying to go into this with a more positive frame of mind and how to handle it. There was a video by some really cool ladies. I wish I can remember what their channel is, but they talked about working on the lines, and they brought up working on a webcam line and some stuff, similar stuff they had to deal with. And one nice thing about it was that they reassured people that once you get past the introductory part of being a new person on the lines, those kind of scummy guys who try to push themselves on you and invade your space there, they start going away. So I decided that, I really am good at reading for people. And I want to do this not just as a living, but like it's part of what I consider my ministry. I guess you could say I am an ordained reverend back in Utah. And so I was going to get ordained locally and see if I could get back into doing house blessings, clergy services, whatever people, needed or wanted locally, because I kind of miss being part of a church, and I want to be of service again. My boys are getting older, so they don't need me all the time. I mean, they still do for a bit longer, but I'm getting a little bit more and more free time. And so yeah, this is. I guess I'm finally feeling like I need to do this. Not just that I would like to, or that and that I miss it. That is part of it, but I need to get this active and going so that when the boys really are um, mostly in charge for themselves, I can already be active in the community and not just trying to dip into things then. So let's see. So are you at all involved in your local pagan community locally, Bella? Or are you even, I mean, aside from being into divination, I'm not even sure if you are into, oh, okay. See, that's the tricky part with Druid groups. I would love if there was a Druid group right by me, but I know there's like an Ossetru group, and I know that there's like a coven that's somewhat eclectic and includes some they're witches, but they include some druid stuff in it. And I think what you're talking about is the ADF special land or temple space. Yeah, it's like it's like an hour or so away from where I am. I was looking that up. I was even considering just doing, because I already have quite a bit of training, but I wouldn't mind doing ADF. It's actually quite reasonably priced, at least for membership and getting started and stuff, compared to like the OBOD, which I just can't afford at all. um, okay, so you're in shaman, which I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. And see, and that's the other thing is like I know I'm an eclectic. And when I was much younger, I tried a couple of times to get involved in what you call it, uh, a coven, who were a bit on the Celtic side. But I had some, at that time, I wasn't into all the things they were into, in the sense that some of them were using herbs and things that I wasn't into yet, or whatever. I wasn't into it at the time. And there was actually some, it wouldn't have been a bad thing, except there was actually a little bit of conflict within the coven about being involved in that kind of thing. So it made me feel like it wasn't the best training ground for a young or anyone getting into the craft or pagan spirituality when there's that kind of conflict. Oh, you love everything Celtic? That's awesome. I have a Triskel on my arm because I love Celtic stuff so much. I don't do everything by Celtic means, um, just to clarify, but that is definitely a part or one of the roots of my mix of spirituality. I'm very drawn to working with nature spirits and the land. I work with Mother Nature mostly, whom I sometimes just think of as um, the earth, or it just depends. I'm not. I used to try to work with deity forms, but it never really took. And when I was really young and I was still a Christian, to me, um, when I finally released Christianity, what I remembered was that I always felt better when I went out into nature and connected, be it talking to nature, trying to vent out whatever was going on, or just being in nature in general and just enjoying it. Nature was what helped me. Um, and so when I started checking out spiritualities and stuff, and I left Christianity, it was like I really felt drawn to the idea of goddess stuff, and I had no problem with the idea of gods, but it was so much more about um, finding that peace with my senses and everything. Oh, is the crystal shop over in Shelton, or are you talking about the crystal shop downtown Olympia? I've heard about a few different things, so I'm not sure. Because I have visited the downtown Olympia Pagan Crystal Shop. It's a very nice space. It's kind of small, but it's very nice and nice people there. I've only gone a few times, again, because it is, I mean, not that I have anything against witches, but they seem to be very much part of a group. And you get some newbies there. Okay, the one in Shelton? Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to go to that one yet. I actually would. As a matter of fact, my husband and I have been talking about um, driving up to some of those areas to check it out. I That's one of my quirk things is I didn't start driving until I was in my 30s, and I have a bit of a car phobia, which I had to work through. Yeah, I heard there's like a barn over in that one in the Shelton shop that has like a crystal. Is it a bed or a meditation area or something like that? It's been a little while since I talked to anybody about it, so I don't remember all the details. I just know that there's a really cool, nice place there. Oh, March 1st? Okay, I will. Is it gonna be? It's gonna be at the shop. Okay, I will check that out. Yeah, I will make sure I put that on the calendar and talk with my husband about that. I imagine that the energy of a crystal bed is fantastic. I have been in a cave that was full of crystals, and I did get to relax in it. Not necessarily sleep, but just spend quite a bit of time sitting in the cave with all the crystals all around. And that was quite an awesome experience current wise, which for most people they'd say vibration or energy wise. I love the term currents because to me, energy sounds like something that goes through wires, but I know some people call that current too. But when I say current, I'm usually thinking along the lines of the flow of water and spiritual energy. So And I know some people feel that's similar, so I don't know. That's just how I think of it. Oh, so crazy. Yeah, please do share the info with me. And I know my husband's like, if I give him a date and a time, we definitely can arrange it. As long as it's like on the weekend or a Friday, I can more likely come. But if it's during the week, I'll see. I'll see if I can make it work. Matter of fact, let me look at the calendar and let me see when the first is. Well, Thursday, that might still work. It's not a heavy load on Thursday for us school wise, so ask him for sure. And if I can figure out how to drive up to Shelton without having gone on the freeway, maybe I'll just come up myself. Hopefully by then the weather will be a little bit better. Really? Am I looking at the calendar wrong? I thought the first was on Thursday. March 1st, right? Yeah, it's showing March 1st is the Thursday. Is it just the weekend following the 1st of March? Is that what you mean? Okay. Okay, yeah. I'll just keep an eye out, and you know you can catch me, IM me on Facebook, or even just on a post or something, and I will keep an eye out for it because I do get the little messages, and I will just check more often for the next few days. Cool, cool. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. First weekend of March. Okay. The only way that might be an issue is if my husband decides to go skiing, but I think he was going to try to do that this weekend, so that weekend should be fine. So yeah, I am starting on a web hotline, and I'm also considering starting an Etsy store. I don't know. I just need to get some stuff going because I still practice my cards, and I've been working on connecting with the local energies. I'm sorry, currents. I hate using energies. It always makes me feel like I'm talking about electricity. But I I don't know. My kids trying to keep my focus. That's one of my things. I noticed today I was really anxious about stuff, and I think it's because I've just spent the last 3 or 4 days setting up a reading space and a drape situation so I could block half the room because I only have so much space that's personally my space to do things with. And then the rest of the house is mostly set up for homeschool or our gatherings here. Um, and also gaming. The kids and my husband do a lot of gaming. I do some too, but not the way they do. So that's a priority in the house. And I had a really awesome little reading space in my last house. Oh, do you have a issue with driving too? See, that's the thing. That was one of the things I was thinking about was that as a reader, I have done readings for people who have similar issues like anxiety or because technically that's one thing we're not really supposed to be doing medical readings on the hotlines. And I wouldn't really go into that aspect of it. I was thinking more like life skills and methods that you can do to help with anxiety and also spiritual practices and things that you might do to help yourself work through issues. Um, oh, I understand the not driving at night. I actually can, but I do avoid some night driving if it is bad weather, if I can. But if I happen to be caught on it, you just deal with it until you can get home. I know some people just can't drive at night. It's like a visual thing. There's no, yeah, yeah. That is an interesting thing because I was in Utah, there's like all these lights all over the place. They have so much light pollution, but on the other side, that means that things are very well lit And the other thing here is that the roads can be very curvy and very, if not bumpy, but like tilty and different things because we're wrapping around the bays and stuff like that. Yeah, and it is quite dark in between towns. I agree. And in my neighborhood here, it gets quite dark because we're a bit in, I'm like in the northwest Olympia, uh, kind of a little peninsula area, and really near going into the bays. So it's a bit darker out here. There's not quite as much lighting. More in town near the mall or where the shopping centers and places like that are. So I totally get that. Yeah, in Salt Lake, it was like all lit up everywhere. And it was really hard to find an area unless you were going into the mountains. You're in the woods, so yeah, I bet it's even worse there. I have like deer that goes through my property. Our yard is not closed fenced off, so we get all kinds of animals like foxes, raccoons, deer, just right in the yard. And our lighting isn't that great on one side of the house. And one time I almost walked right into a deer, which startled me because I would have thought they would have, backed away from me. So I totally get being in the woods and all that. Yeah. I actually love it. I missed the woods. When I lived in Utah, there was no trees except for a few trees, fruit trees, but they weren't really close to my house. They were like on one side of the yard and it was 2 or 3 trees. No shade. I love being in the woods again, and I love being near water. I actually am healthier now. My sinuses, my allergies are so much better here than it was in Utah. My older son, he used to get nosebleeds all the time in Utah, and now his sinuses are much better here, even though we still have a little bit of allergies. But it's just like I don't even know how to tell you the percentage of how much better it is here. Oh, you feed the deer. I saw that. Sorry, it took me a minute to connect who you were feeding. I'm kind of cautious about that because we have cats that I allow them out on the deck only when I'm out, and then they have to come in when I'm coming in. Um, and we just got a new cat that we're going to have completely indoors. So, ooh, that is sad. Oh, yeah. I I'm hesitant on. I mean, I've fed birds because my kids like to do like the peanut butter pine cones and put seeds on it. We have lots of different birds here, even some little tiny birds that are not hummingbirds that I just don't know what they are. I'm hoping to spend some time studying birds this spring and summer because it's so fascinating the variety. And we have like 2 or 3 different kinds of squirrels in this area, which I really missed squirrels in the valley over in Salt Lake. You can find them in the mountains, but in the middle of the valley, there's sections where there's no squirrels at all. It was so weird. And I am living on the West Coast where you can find squirrels everywhere. I mean, even in parts of Southern California, um, unless you were in a really, really deep part of a big major city, you would find squirrels. Oh, I had yeah, the flying ones. I did not remember that. I had lived in Washington before, but I didn't remember seeing flying squirrels before. I guess I was up near Seattle when I met my husband the first time, and now I'm down here in Olympia, and I'm thinking there's definitely a difference in because I also wasn't living in the almost like in the forest kind of like I am now. Yeah, that would be cool. I did mention that in a local pagan Facebook. I'd be happy to do a bit of a study on the natural animals here in the southern. What are we? Kind of southern Washington here, almost. Or are we more like southern bays? I don't know. This area. Let's put it like that. Oh, you did plant a tree last year. I probably should spend more time on that. What I was doing when I say I was studying the land was I kind of let whatever animals and plant life near me that draw my attention, I'll look into that a bit. But what I was doing more was connecting my currents with the local land that I live on. And whenever I went out to the park or went out on hikes with my kids, I would spend a little bit of the rest time doing almost like a light meditation, or almost like a little mini ritual of connection. And sometimes that included, well, almost every type of spiritual activity I do includes divination because it's a form of communication for me between spirit and myself. So yeah, I we have a class at Orla, which is Olympia Regional something learning academy, or something like that. And I really wanted my kids to get in that class, but my boys are techie boys. They were not interested. I would love to learn more about wild harvesting. I tend to be the kind where I try to leave the least imprint behind when I go into nature. I have harvests like berries occasionally, but I'm very, very careful with that. And I try to leave um, scattered areas so I'm not just wiping certain spots clear, because I know that the local animals are eating those berries and things, and I don't want to be taking it from them. So I really like taking a little bit of what's already, like, I like collecting what's already just fallen, so it's still kind of fresh, but I'm not taking from the plant while it's still connected, if that makes sense, and using it in my spiritual work. Yeah. And even just as a local being sharing space, I just think that makes sense. And I want to try to find a way to make more balance of being able to give offerings, because that's a big part of my spirituality. Is that I'm not so much about like the light and bright type stuff. I'm more about connection and, you know, kind of being real in the moment. So many people are like, oh, I need to make this positive. I need to have these positive goals. I need to be so future focused. And I'm like, okay, well, what am I experiencing now in the moment? How am I going to get through the next few days? Not like so far out, but like in how am I going to help my kids get through this stuff? And then when I'm doing ritual, I also want to be connecting and sinking in, which I'm spending a lot of time doing just because I was in Utah for over 10 years, and I need to reconnect to the West Coast. So giving offerings and exchanging current with the local landmass, I feel, is more important right now than me trying to do some major spell work and like taking or borrowing energy without having a good relationship to the local energy the way I need. Oh, I totally understand. Get your cuppa. Sorry if I move a bit. My joints and my legs tend to get little a little achy if I stay in position too long. But when I sit in a chair for too long, that doesn't do much for my back. So one way or another. So yeah, that's what I'm dealing with right now. I'm like looking at my tools, seeing what I'm using the most for when I want to do the readings, and then I'm also thinking that it will help me be. A lot of people talk about how they do like a ritual and setting like a real space in some kind of way before they do readings. My experience with that is that most readers usually, I shouldn't put it that way. Let me start this over. When I handle my cards, when I handle my pendulum, if I'm going to use that, or my runes, or I have a set of 13 witch stones, or witch runes that I made myself. Um, when I handle them, when I have the cloth out, or if I just do incense, that's about as much ritual as I do, unless I'm trying to do communication to connect with the land, or making sure that my connection to the land, sea, and sky is established well. And if there is other, what I call consciousness or spirits wanting to add into what I'm doing, I do a bit of divination for those things in a more ritualistic way. When it comes to doing readings for others, as soon as I have the cloth spread and my cards in my hands, and I've done the shuffling. I'm in my spiritual space. I could probably sometimes, if I just barely got somewhere, I might need to kind of flow and move with the currents a little bit. But other than that, I really don't do a major ritual for regular readings for reading for clients. Now, saying that, if I feel moved to light a candle or I feel moved to light some incense, usually my incense all have purpose. I have a lot of clove incense because for me it's protective, and it's also an impassioned scent. I really connect with cloves. I don't know. I've loved cloves since I was in high school. But back then I was introduced to it with clove cigarettes, and now I don't do that at all. Now they have clove incense and even just crushed cloves. I'm happy to have that in a bowl nearby and just move the herbs a little bit to get the fresh scent going. Because sometimes you're in a space where, like when I do outdoor booths, I can't have incense going for very long because it might leave a stain or burn something or whatever. So I like to do things in a way where I'm not causing concerns or more stress in my mind when I need to be in the spiritual space to do the reading. When I conduct rituals, I kind of like to set the incense, do a round of cleansing and purifying or saging or however you want to think of it with whatever incense or sage bundle or whatever. Get it done first. I actually prefer sweetgrass now that I think of it. I don't sage that often. I keep it on hand for house cleansings and certain things. But yeah, setting that scent to make it so it's less, the space feels less, I guess, mundane, that we feel more connected in the moment. That kind of thing, yeah, that I like. Yeah. That's, and I guess it's partially because I'm more into, I got this magazine and it has some really cool articles. When I saw the topics, I was like, I really need to get that. I need to get that magazine. And it's called Witches and Pagans. And the articles are about natural paganism. One has a lot about animism, which is, the belief that everything has spirit or energy or consciousness even. And that, yeah, it's a very basic belief, very simplified form, but I still feel like there could be a lot to it. I noticed that there's quite a few people in my generation, and maybe just in general, that are more not as connected to the deity forms, or I shouldn't even say it that way, just deity. But I don't know that I'm not connected to deity. To me, I've always felt like the earth is a deity. So, and I was the few people I've met, especially the only woman I've met, that will willingly work with Loki energy. But that's like a long story. I also have a major connection to Basset. Oh my gosh, there was a few years there where all these people were giving me statues, papyruses, pictures, little resin figurines, all kinds of stuff of Basset. She was like still even now heavy in my life. I keep getting all these cats. And I don't think that Basset is the only cat goddess, but yeah. So I was really drawn to this magazine, and I've gotten to read a few of the articles. It's all this stuff, somehow it just all came together reminding me of stuff. So, now I'm just talking, and I don't even know that I kept my point, but that's okay. I guess I just really needed to get back to connected into being up late and doing the live streams or webcamming and connecting with someone awesome like you. And it's kind of weird because I know that I am mostly a cheerful person, mostly. um, being someone who has anxiety and panic, and then having sensory issues, and then see, to know, actually, I'm not on any meds. I haven't been on any meds since my 20s. And even then, I wasn't on it very long because the side effects would bother me so much sensory wise that it wasn't helpful. It was more distracting to try to handle everyday things with the delay. Uh, yeah, it's so hard to explain. It was like a delayed reaction response time thing when I was on the meds. And then there would be like these weird, uncomfortable feelings within my body on the meds. And that was just way too many layers of trying to work through, trying to act normal around people and not freaking out. So it was almost easier just to be anxious and just deal with whatever panic attacks, whatever happened, than it was to try to deal with the supposed help they were trying to give me. But I do have a supplement I take now called Now Foods is the brand, and it's called True Calm. And I really find it helps me. It doesn't make me not feel. It just helps me be level. And it also helps if I know that I'm going to be going somewhere that I haven't been before, or driving somewhere that I'm not used to driving. It helps me stay more calm. And it helps me get through the stress of whatever might happen. Um, and, if later in the day I happen to have an attack, then that's fine. It's in a safe place. I'm not in the process of doing something where I need to be in control, and that's what works for me. So, yeah. It was very challenging learning how to drive. I was taking that supplement during the time I was learning to drive, and I was taking much higher doses than I need to take now. And I think I need to find a way to be okay with sharing some of this aspects of myself, um, because I'm naturally cheerful, but because of my anxiety and these other issues, I do feel that I'm a little bit more of a darker personality than I tend to give off. Because I do tend to worry a lot, like many other people. I'm not trying to say that I'm unique. I'm just saying figuring out how to present how my readings are. It's like there's some kind of clash going on in my mind, I guess. And I know people have experienced too in my readings. Um, some of my friends I've had in the past who are readers are light lighters, or some of them are way, 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 way goth. And some of them are very much into their witchiness. And some of them, I've had a lot of different kind of readers that I've worked with. This one Druid guy was totally hilarious. So maybe being a reader that is cool with talking about how to maneuver those things, not in a medical way, but in a like, okay, so have we tried deep breathing, and have you used your spiritual tools to help you work through these issues? Because for me, spiritual tools were very much part of how I deal with reality uh, all the time. Matter of fact, I have a funny story. Yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah. um, I totally agree. I am trying to make peace with that. It's just, I guess, because even in my marriage, I'm so check and balancing, because a lot of women in my family have had issues with just being themselves, even around their lover or their partner. It's it makes me a little bit hesitant in other ways, but at the same time, when I know I've connected with similar people and they're having not exactly my same issues, but they're still their quirkiness, it usually flows just fine. So, yeah. And that's why I was like, okay, so I'm not sure really. Everybody was talking when I was researching about working on the lines about creating like a persona that you kind of use to help you get through working with these people and being of assistance and stuff, because like I said, you get kind of like these pervy people in there sometimes at first, and I know I might have to deal with that. And I was like, uh it it does take a bit for me to be a little bitchy. or a lot bitchy. And it's because my natural inclination is to give people a chance to show me what they really are. And I don't always want to be like that. I may be a little sarcastic sometimes, but that's usually with people I know a little bit better. So I guess I have an instinctual urge to put out a slightly better version of myself, like a lot of people do. Oh, see, and I find phone readings limiting. I did do phone readings, and I got some really bad pervy people on that before too. If they're coming to me off of a line, then I usually get a way better class of people that isn't that kind. But when you're on the lines, you get all kinds. It's just different. And I don't have the money right now to advertise to do just readings on my own as a business. So I thought I might try, even if this is going to be a part-time thing or whatever, doing the lines for a bit to get some money flowing. And then I would try to maybe get my own business going once I had a bit of money under my pocket, because the money in our personal family stream here basically goes for running our family. We don't really have money for me to be doing my business stuff with it. So that's an issue. Yeah. Yeah, and I actually do like phone readings. It's just I can't share. I love sharing the cards, and that's what I love about video readings is that the cool thing with the software I just found is that I can take a corner of the bottom corner of the string or a top corner, and I can be showing the cards I'm putting down and still have part of the screen be me. So you can see the two views, which is going to be almost like being in a in-person reading. Oh, yeah, on the phones. Well, any kind of distance reading when you're not in person reading, there is a little adjustment of getting used to connecting. Um, but if you can really comfortable with just the confidence that you know you can connect in general, whether it's in person or distance. I mean, just think about how you know that thing where they say how you'll think of someone a moment or two, and then you get a call, and it's that person you were thinking about, or vice versa. They were thinking about you, and you suddenly got the urge to call them. That kind of thing. It's the same kind of current. It's just if your senses are open wide enough, you'll be able to share and reflect a story back and forth, be it with cards or just our what we call our intuition. It really works. It's and some people do just do better in person, but I have done like I was reading for a lady in Florida for a while, um, and I even have even read for people in Australia way, oh my God, so long ago before I even have kids. So that was like over 11 years ago. And I did some very accurate readings, so I know that it can work. Yeah, and being able to visually see the person as well, that adds another layer to the connection for sure. Oh, that's tricky. Okay, do I work with the spirit world? Well, okay, so I don't work with angels as far as I know. I can kind of feel buzzing on my head when what I feel are higher vibration beings are trying to connect with me, but they're not clear. I don't hear voices. I'm not a clairaudient, so that it doesn't quite work. But when I've been in the middle of readings, I have suddenly talked in accents and patterns that people recognize as relatives. I never know when it's going to happen. It just flows and it happens. And then I'm saying words I've either hardly ever heard or never heard. I've never totally spoken another language, but I have gotten accents and slang and stuff that I hadn't really used before. And they usually go, "Oh my God, you sound just like my aunt," or "Oh my gosh, that sounds just like my uncle," or, that kind of thing. So, yes, technically, I connect with people who've passed occasionally, but it's not something I can just say, oh, I'm going to do that right now. It's usually when I'm in a very connected reading with a person. It can be with or without cards, and it just kind of spontaneously happens. It just happens. And I never know. I just literally never know. So, but I do feel, if you've ever done readings during what we call those thin veil times, I do feel that's some of the best times to do what I would consider spirit world or spirit work and things like that. I also feel things like twilight times, which would be sunset and sunrise, are very good times to connect not only with the spirit world, but with the nature spirits. And if you're trying to communicate closer to your animals in your life, for some reason, that time period of the day, those two time periods of the day are really great times to connect, and there's a little bit more understanding that flows through during that time period. And that actually is connected to one of the things was thinking about, was that I kind of consider what I do to be working the in-betweens, because I work land, sea, and sky. And I am so conflicted. You mentioned you do shamanism, and I don't know that I'm shamanistic because I've read a lot about it. But so much of it's connected, even amongst the shamanistic community, to the four elements and working with spirit that way. And I have such a conflict with that because according to my research that I had studied a lot when I was younger, when I was studying anthropology and history and stuff like that, the four element system, at least when it comes to the European bent on it, comes from the Greco-Roman philosophers and the scientist types of that day, working with the elements as a way to help divide up the world. Okay. And now, when I hear about it in the Native American sense, it's a little bit similar, but they base it, if I understand correctly, more off of the direction of the winds, which there is some crossover with Northern European spirituality with the directions of the winds and honoring the four directions in that sense. But if you look and study amongst the European folk practices and beliefs, they mostly talk about the land, sea, and sky, the triple worlds, and that's not necessarily including the land, sea, and sky, although a lot of people now kind of connect them together. But it was more like Middle Earth, the other world or the ancestral area, and then the higher realm that the gods live. But then there's always some gods who live with the ancestor areas, so it's like, which way is the right? There's conflict in belief there. Whenever I connect with nature, okay, I always, and when I connect with spiritual energy, I remember this was a really big one when I was kind of realizing that I was not fitting in with Christianity anymore. That it had always been a conflict for me, that kind of thing. One of the last times that I went to a Christian church, and then I tried to reenact this with a few different spiritual practices to see where the flow of current of spiritual connection and the currents or energy vibes were flowing from. And so many people always raise their hands up on high. Now, when you're trying to connect with the moon or the sun, that kind of thing, that makes sense. But when people are talking about deity and when they're talking about a lot of Christian belief and things like that, they're always raising their hands on high, right? Every single time I was in those situations, the energy was flowing, the currents were flowing between the people and the physical space around us in the room or even the building or the land. And if there was a stream or a major water area, there was a flow of energy coming from that too. But hardly ever, I gotta correct that. I had never felt any energy flowing from up on high down to the people who are raising their hands and like, oh, great God, or whatever, that kind of thing. So for me, it's very conflicting when people like label the 4 elements and then put it in the 4 directions. If we're just talking winds, I can flow with that. If we're talking weather systems and working with the consciousness of a storm or a weather system, I can somewhat flow with that too. But I have a harder time with the whole elements thing because only one element actually, the way I view the realms, the land, sea, and sky would be, earth, water, and then the sky is a mixture of both air and fire. But fire mixes in to all 3 of the realms because without the heat, this place would be like a stone block. Nothing would live here without everything working and blending together. None of this would be here. Okay, and fire is also a living being in a way that water and air and earth isn't quite the same. And when I say earth, I mean land. I don't mean earth as in the consciousness of the planet, but like that part of the earth. So in having this kind of cosmos in my head, when I'm trying to work energy with others, I really have to go with the sensory aspect of it and then just flow energy that way. And I usually try to get an idea of what they're working with and then just kind of holding my own stuff to the side, because the way that an element system cosmology works and the way that the triple realms cosmology works is very different. And I've always wondered why shamanism isn't more similar to the triple realms way of thinking. Maybe there is some similarity, or maybe there is some blending in there, but I haven't gotten to do enough group work with others who do shamanistic work to really sense what is happening with the energy. So for me, spiritually, it's really based off of my experience with the currents that are happening in the moment with the people I am either working with or experiencing things with, if not working with them. So, and plus, more than half the people I meet who actually work with the 4 elements and spirit, which makes it 5, are based off of a Wicca, or basically the watchtower system when you're doing casting circle and stuff like that. Half of them don't even know that it comes from high ceremonial magic with a Christian, or no, more properly, Hermetic system background. And I find that very conflicting. But I don't think that's the space that a shamanistic person is coming from. At least, I don't know. I guess it depends individually on the shamanistic crafter, whoever's working the ritual. Yes? Yeah, so I went to Iceland in December on vacation, and it was totally cool. It totally wrecked our sleep patterns. I had jet lag so bad coming back, it was ridiculous. But I did get a new phrase, and they do this thing, some of them older people and some other people, and we learned about it because we were on some bus tours, and they do this just yeah yeah yeah. They do this like yeah 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 yeah, and they do it with a certain kind of accent I can't quite do. So now sometimes when I'm not saying anything for a minute, I just start doing what I experienced so many times in Iceland, was this yeah yeah yeah, but it's more like a yeah 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 yeah. And they do it so much better, of course, and with a slight different tone. But yeah, my kids, they do the same thing sometimes. Like, Yeah, Mom, whatever. So yeah, um, that was the other thing is like as much as I love tarot, I kind of favor my oracles a lot, and I love my tarot that's has an oracle feel to them. And that was the other. I've been trying to like find a good blend of representing, like, do I say I'm a tarot reader? Do I say I'm an oracle reader? Do I just say I'm an eclectic fae and then explain I work with these different tools? Um, After I moved here, I was in the Facebook group, and this one lady says, "Oh yeah, I'm eclectic fae," and I was just like, "That is the coolest term," because for years I've been saying, "Well, most people identify me as a druid, but I still do craft practices, though I'm not Wicca, and I know I'm eclectic." But that's such a long explanation, and I really just like, okay, I'm eclectic fae because more than half of my stuff, I love weather work, and no, that doesn't mean that I try to control the weather. I harness the currents of weather, and I tend to give offerings to the weather systems and the land, sea, and sky to be in connection with those spirits and consciousnesses. Um, so it's more harnessing the energy that they're giving off and using it in spell work, divination, healing work, whatever it is that I might be doing. And also seeking out wisdom from the weather systems. So yeah, kind of my own little quirkiness there for spiritual work. So I don't know too many druids that do that. That's just my personal thing. I'm very interested in weather shamanism. In that sense, there was a really cool book that talked about it a little while back. I've only got to read that book partway through, but in it, I don't even know if it talked about the way I do things. It just had some really cool insight into how shamanism works, shamanistic practitioners work with weather. But yeah, I really love connecting on a current level with everybody. And the one time I allowed someone to do some chakra opening and closing on me, I was a reader at some store in Utah, and there was another practitioner that was doing chakra balancing on people and healing work. She closed all my chakras. She says, "Oh, it can't be healthy to be open like that all the time." I had never had chakra work done before, so I had no idea what to expect. And I literally caught the flu, almost fractured my foot, kept twisting my ankle. It was horrible. It messed me up so bad. I do not let anybody do chakra work on me anymore. Ever since I figured out that my body needs my sensory stuff to even just function and move through space. There's a reason that I'm sensory hypersensitive, or however you want to think of it. So I don't work the chakra system methods at all. I'm not drawn to the Asian stuff, which is funny because my sister's part Asian, but she's also part Native American and German. So my half sister has a lot of cool stuff going on with her. But I personally don't work a lot of Asian stuff at all. I'm way more into a mixture of European, both Northern and Celtic stuff, and then I try to honor the local energies, which means that I like finding out about the Native American basic peace offerings and different things like that, but I don't ever intend to trying to work their rituals. I feel like as pagans and of different ancestry, but also being born here and our bodies come from the food and the land that nurtures us, that I need to find my own way to interact with the currents of where I live. So yeah, I love using sweetgrass, but I don't necessarily do it exactly the way the Native Americans do, because I have some Native ancestry in my family too, not just my sister, but on our shared mother's line. but it's, oh, you've been doing astrology? I love astrology. I'm not studying as much as I used to when I was younger, but I think astrology is fascinating. And I tell people all the time, if you really want to know what's going on with your life as a long-term goal setting, definitely get astrology charts done because it's very accurate. It is so accurate. It's a little scary sometimes. I kind of feel like astrology is the science of the occult or of the woo-woo. It's like real science in a spiritual way. I mean, it used to be that when you studied astronomy, you were also studying astrology. And they're so, oh, I have some real huge math geek friends who love astrology, love figuring out how to do the natal charts. My one friend Lee has some books, major books on nodes and the newest information and corrections with the planet variations that have happened with some new planets, or what did they call them? Oh, I can't remember. Satellites, some smaller stuff they found in the sky in the last, oh, what is it, 10, 20 years that they've added into certain factors of it. Yeah, there's some interesting books out there that Lee loves that adds quite a bit of information. And she was the one, my friend Lee, I have had astrology charts made. You might know about this, or you might want to check it out. Astrology charts that you get through computer programs are good. They're a good starting point. But I had always had a conflict in my chart because it always said I was like a Gemini moon, and I know I'm a talker and I can be a little indecisive. But but I had no earth in my chart, but I was one of the most stable, most down to earth people in my family. And it turned out when she did my chart with her books, she says, "Oh, you're just a few hours into Taurus with your moon. Like they've been telling you you're a Gemini, but actually, according to position for that year and within a few hours, your moon is in Taurus." And that made everything in my chart correct and more aligned with how I really am. When I was reading the description before, there would always be like a heavier percentage that was not quite right. But when she did that, it like so like cleared up so many things. It was so hilarious. It was like, this is you. It was so hilarious. Yeah, so I'm like a Pisces with a Taurus moon, which makes so much sense. And I think my rising is Libra. But I have tons and tons of air and a little water, a dab of fire, and then the only earth I have is that moon. That's it. I have a predominance of air in my planets, which is probably why I'm so chatty. What sign are you, if you don't mind sharing, Bella? Oh, cool. I have quite a few Scorpios in my life. Mother-in-law and my son. My oldest son is a Scorpio. My younger is an Aries. And my husband's an Aquarius. So I've got, yeah. I think he's Aquarius sun with a, I know I want to say he's a Leo moon. It's either his moon is Leo or his rising, and then he has Cancer with one of those two. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, you're very chatty too. That's awesome. You know what? That may be your Sag though, because I've met some Sages and they can be very chatty. And isn't Sagittarian a fire sign? So yeah. Way cool. Sorry, I feel the urge to fiddle with my cards. I used to do readings on the weekends, and I used to lead a once a month group for people who wanted to practice with their new oracles or tarot or just intuitive techniques to practice to help open their senses. I really miss my old groups. Well, that's cool. You're not a normal Scorpio. Does that mean that you're not not a normal Scorpio? That's an interesting. So would that mean? Oh no, I don't want to try to like read you without permission. That's like not. I was going to joke and say you must not have as much of a temper, but I have a feeling that uh, with the Sag, you could have more of a temper. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Part of the reason why I had my cards out is, like I mentioned, I was trying to get a feel for what my bent was and the best terms I could use to describe it. Oh, I get what you're saying. No, I don't mess with people. I can, but I don't. I have a very hard ethics on that. I only mess with people that I actually am in contact with in like my physical life. It's kind of a hard rule. Unless I know someone's in danger or being manipulated or put in a dangerous situation, I don't do that kind of work. Um, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, that's one nice thing about our spirituality. I feel like um, the alternative spiritualities, like those along a pagan stream, give us more life tools, spiritual connection, and methods to help us deal with more issues that we have in our lives. So much of my life as when I was a Christian, I felt so out of control and so judged and just so like they didn't give me tools. They said pray or trust in God or da 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 da. But pagan spirituality, whatever kind, and even past like Buddhism and I can think of possibly a few others, they all have far more interactive methods that we can use in our daily life to deal with stuff. Even like um, both my father and my grandmother have now passed, and they passed within 3 years of each other. And it was like my dad passed first. He had muscular dystrophy, and then my grandma. And I feel like having that understanding of coming to peace and not having to ride the line of this is the only life you get and you should struggle for as long as possible to live it, even if you're in so much pain and you're pretty much dying. Uh, Keep struggling to hang on. I was the only person either time that said I love you, and if you're meant to stay, I'd welcome you staying, but if it's your time, please just go and don't be in pain, you know. And I just feel like the rest of my family was struggling every step of the way and making it harder on themselves and the person that was dying in some ways, rather than embracing their experience. It was so fear based. It was so, you're leaving me and it makes me unhappy, instead of, okay, we need to make our peace. We need to take these steps. We need to let them finally pass with some dignity. It's all about fighting it. And I just can't. I couldn't do that. I couldn't be on that stream. It's too hard. And it was far too, like my dad had been fighting muscular dystrophy since the time I was a small child. But it wasn't really bad until I was in my 20s. And then I just wanted him to live the most comfortable life he could. And they were in such denial that I didn't even know he was dying until like the day before he died. And that was hard because I couldn't even, at that point, I couldn't even try to find a way to be with him. And I lit a candle for him, and I instinctively just knew when to put it out. Like, I put it out, and then my family called me right afterwards saying, yes, he's finally passed. It was like that. And when my grandma was passing, because I had just barely experienced it with Dad, my cousin was like very involved in trying to help her out that last year. She evidently got exposed to black mold, and she ended up having to, instead of being in her home, she ended up having to go to an old folks home and was really struggling because my grandma was very independent. And every single person I decided to go and be there for before she passed, to visit her in the hospice and be involved in that transition from being in the old folks home to whatever care she might have to go into. And they were talking about making her go through some more surgeries just to try to help her eat to live longer or whatever, to get nutrition. And I was like, are you kidding me? She's that far along and you guys want to try to put her through another surgery? But they had been fighting and hoping, and my cousin was pretty much like another daughter to her. And she was, very involved with her. And I felt she had more rights in saying what was going on than I did. But I did convey to her, I admire what you've done for my grandma, or for grandma, and for Ginger. And you've been with her so much, but are you fighting for you or are you fighting for her? And I'm not trying to take what you've done away from you. I'm just saying, where are we at in this? What is going on? And then everybody who came talked about their religion, which was fine. I had to step back a little bit. I had to go, okay, this is not about me. This is her and her friends. This is how they connect. Let them do what they need to do. She would welcome them, yada, yada. And it's just a very fine line when you are in such different faith than people. My grandmother was Lutheran, Orthodox Lutheran. So, yeah, very different. But she was very open-minded, and when she found out I was pagan, she never judged me for it. She was just like, as long as we have reasonable conversations and respect each other's faiths, we still loved each other. It was really awesome. I miss her. And my dad didn't have heavy feelings either way about that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I miss them a lot. But yeah, I was talking with my husband. He's like, he hasn't had to deal with any of this left. He just lost his great grandmother, but she was so old. It was one of those things where it was kind of a relief for her and everybody that she passed. They loved her. Everybody loved her. She was such an awesome lady, but she was just had such health problems that it was good that she finally passed on. So it wasn't so heart-wrenching, like conflicted as my family was going through. Or my side of the family was going through. So yeah, I really like that pagan spirituality in some ways has some really cool methods and practices, and part of our spirituality is dealing with everyday life, where so much of, I admit I know a bit more about Christianity, but some spiritual paths, not just Christianity, is more about, keeping yourself pure for when you go to the other side. But then on the same time, it might have issues of trying to live as long as possible because this is your one and only life. But they don't prep people for death, and they don't prep people for long illness or all those kind of things. And that's hard. My husband was saying how conflicted he's not sure how he's going to deal with when his dad or mom passes, and he's not sure what to do about it. He lived with it through me, but I was very, I can be very emotional, but during that time period, I was very half numb and half just, I have little kids. I just got to get through the day, and I will have my moments of missing them when I'm not on the clock, so to speak, when I'm not having to deal with all this other stuff. And I literally told my friends, if I seem not very reactive or kind of quiet to you, you know, my relatives have passed recently, so just expect that's why whatever's going on. You know, and my pagan friends were a little bit better about that. So it just is what it is. And I guess being able to understand what that is like for people, I mean, that's good as a reverend, but as a reader, I can see that as being useful. There's this really cool lady on the YouTubes here, on the channels, The Truth and Story. She has had so much experience with grief and passing and different issues connected to that. Mostly, I've heard her talk about dealing with grief and other things along those lines. I think she's awesome, and the compassion and the sharing that she does is so cool. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm a chatterbox. Yes, I totally understand. It's getting late. It was nice talking with you. Oh, yeah, Kelly. She is really cool. I admire her a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I'll remember that. I will, I know we have a connection through the Facebook iMessenger, and I know we could possibly connect on that way with either a video call or just calling that way too, okay? Cool. All right. Night, Bella. All right. And so anyone who may have been watching this long chat, I will decide if I'm putting this up or not, send it to private or keep it out there. I will overview it to see if there was some useful stuff. And if you like these kinds of chats, live streams, let me know. You know, thumbs up, thumbs down for others who might see this to give me an idea. And if I talked about any topics that you'd like me to go further into, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do. I try to join the live chats with Kelly part of the time, but some of the time I'm busy with my kids during it, so yeah, I know. It's like the middle of the day, and sometimes I have, I go to the wet center, which is a little science center for kids with my kids. So I usually end up doing the catch-ups afterwards, but I have participated in some of the live streams she does. It's been a little while, though. I will definitely start trying to get in on them again. Thank you so much, Bella. It's really cool connecting with you. Okay, I guess I'll log off too for now. I think this is a really good space to do that, and I will take care of a couple other things. Be safe out in the storms this weekend. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, bye-bye. Again, put any comments if there's anything I've been talking about you would like to talk more about or have me do a video on. Please feel free. And I might do this myself because review, not redo. Review it myself. I will talk to you soon, Bella. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.